Welcome to Pigeon Healthy. Today we're talking about something that every pigeon keeper eventually faces: injuries and wounds. No matter how careful you are, no matter how well designed your loft is, injuries happen. Pigeons fight, sometimes over mates or territory, and they can inflict surprisingly serious wounds on each other with their beaks and claws. Racing pigeons can injure themselves during training flights or in the basket during transport. Show pigeons can damage themselves in transit to exhibitions. Perches can cause abrasions if they're rough or sharp-edged. Cats, hawks, or other predators can attack, leaving wounds even if the bird escapes. Birds can catch their legs in wire or netting. Young squabs can get trampled or injured by aggressive parents or nestmates. Accidents happen, equipment fails, and sometimes birds just hurt themselves in ways we never anticipated. When a pigeon is injured, prompt and proper wound care is critical. A minor cut, if not treated, can become infected, leading to serious illness or even death. A bleeding wound needs to be stopped quickly to prevent dangerous blood loss, especially in smaller birds. Damaged tissue needs support to heal properly and completely, minimizing scarring and preventing permanent damage. Bacterial infection is the primary risk with any wound, so preventing infection is as important as treating the physical damage. The conventional approach to wound care in pigeons typically involves several steps. First, stop any bleeding by applying pressure or using Styptic powder. Second, clean the wound with antiseptic solution like betadine or chlorhexidine. Third, apply topical antibiotic ointment to prevent infection. Fourth, possibly bandage the wound if it's large or in a location where the bird might pick at it. Fifth, monitor for signs of infection and possibly administer systemic antibiotics if infection develops. This approach can be effective, but it has several downsides. Chemical Styptic powders can irritate tissue and actually slow healing once bleeding is stopped. Antibiotic ointments are petroleum-based and can be ingested when birds preen, potentially causing digestive upset. They can also seal wounds too tightly, preventing necessary drainage and creating anaerobic conditions that favor dangerous bacteria like Clostridium. Overuse of topical antibiotics contributes to antibiotic resistance. Chemical antiseptics can damage healthy tissue if used in high concentrations. And many commercial wound care products are expensive, especially if you're treating multiple birds or frequent injuries. So the question becomes, is there a natural alternative that effectively stops bleeding, prevents infection, and promotes healing without the downsides of chemical treatments? The answer is yes, and it's been known to healers for thousands of years. The herb is called yarrow. Yarrow, botanical name Achillea millefolium, is a common wildflower native to temperate regions of the northern hemisphere. You've probably seen it growing wild. It has feathery, fern-like leaves and clusters of small white or sometimes pink flowers on tall stems. It grows in fields, meadows, along roadsides, in waste areas, basically anywhere with reasonable sunlight. It's considered a weed by many people and is often mowed down or pulled out of gardens. But to herbalists and those who know traditional medicine, yarrow is treasure. The genus name Achillea comes from Achilles, the legendary Greek hero. According to mythology, Achilles used yarrow to treat the wounds of his soldiers during the Trojan War. Whether or not the story is literally true, it reflects the fact that yarrow has been used for wound healing for millennia. It was used extensively in European folk medicine, in traditional Chinese medicine, by Native American healers, and on battlefields throughout history before the advent of modern medical supplies. During World War I, when medical supplies were scarce, yarrow was used to treat wounded soldiers. Its effectiveness in stopping bleeding and preventing infection saved countless lives. Today, yarrow is largely forgotten in mainstream medicine, replaced by synthetic styptics and antibiotics. But the plant hasn't changed. Its medicinal properties are the same as they were thousands of years ago. And for pigeon keepers looking for effective, safe, natural wound care, yarrow is an invaluable resource. Let me explain exactly what makes yarrow so effective for healing wounds, how it works, how to use it properly, and what results you can realistically expect. How to dry. Bundle stems together and hang upside down in a warm, dark, well-ventilated space. Avoid direct sunlight, which can degrade some of the medicinal compounds. Drying usually takes 1 to 2 weeks. Once completely dry and crispy, strip leaves and flowers from stems and store in airtight containers away from light and heat. Properly dried and stored yarrow retains potency for about 1 year. Buying yarrow. If you can't wild harvest or grow yarrow, you can purchase dried yarrow from herbal suppliers. Make sure you're buying Achillea millefolium specifically. The dried herb should be greenish-gray in color with a strong, characteristic aroma. If it's brown or has little smell, it's too old. You can also sometimes find yarrow tinctures or essential oils. Though for wound care, the whole herb is most effective and economical. Growing yarrow. Yarrow is easy to grow from seed or divisions. It likes full sun and well-drained soil but tolerates poor conditions. Once established, it requires almost no care. It spreads slowly and can be divided every few years. Growing your own ensures you have a constant supply of fresh, high-quality yarrow. How to use yarrow for pigeon wounds. Now let's talk about practical application. How do you actually use Yarrow to treat injuries in pigeons? There are several methods depending on the type and severity of wound. Method 1. Fresh Yarrow poultice for active bleeding. If a pigeon has a fresh wound that's actively bleeding, immediate application of fresh Yarrow is the fastest and most effective treatment. Preparation. Take a handful of fresh Yarrow leaves. You can include flowers too if available. Crush the leaves thoroughly. You can do this by hand, crushing and twisting them, or you can chew them briefly. This is an old battlefield technique. Saliva helps activate the compounds and creates a paste. The goal is to rupture the plant cells and release the medicinal compounds. You want a moist, crushed mass of plant material. Application. Apply the crushed Yarrow directly to the bleeding wound. Press it firmly against the injury and hold it in place for 1 to 2 minutes. The bleeding should stop or dramatically slow within 30 seconds to 2 minutes. Once bleeding has stopped, you can remove the plant material, gently clean the wound if needed, and decide whether further treatment is necessary. For very small wounds like minor scratches, this single application may be sufficient. For larger wounds, you'll want to continue with additional Yarrow treatment to prevent infection and support healing. Method 2. Yarrow powder for wounds. Dried Yarrow can be ground into a fine powder and applied directly to wounds. This is useful for wounds that are bleeding but not profusely, or for wounds that have stopped bleeding but need antimicrobial protection. Preparation. Take dried Yarrow leaves and flowers and grind them to a fine powder using a mortar and pestle or coffee grinder. Sift out any large pieces through a fine mesh. Store the powder in a clean, dry, airtight container. This powder keeps well for several months. Application. Clean the wound gently with water or saline if it's dirty. Pat dry. Sprinkle Yarrow powder liberally over the wound surface, ensuring complete coverage. The powder will adhere to the wound and create a protective antimicrobial layer. Leave the powder in place. As the wound heals and scabs, the powder will fall away naturally or can be gently removed. Reapply once or twice daily for the first few days until the wound is clearly healing. This method is particularly good for wounds on the body or wings where bandaging isn't practical and where the bird can't easily pee in the treated area. Method 3. Yarrow wash for infected or dirty wounds. For wounds that are already contaminated, infected, or that need thorough cleaning, a Yarrow wash is extremely effective. Preparation. Make a strong Yarrow tea. Use 2 to 3 tablespoons of dried Yarrow per cup of water or a large handful of fresh Yarrow. Pour boiling water over the Yarrow, cover and steep for at least 20 minutes. Strain thoroughly to remove all plant material. Let the tea cool to a comfortable warm temperature, not hot. Application. Using a clean cloth or gauze, wash the wound thoroughly with the Yarrow tea. Be gentle but thorough, removing any dirt, dried blood or debris. The tea will clean the wound while simultaneously providing antiseptic and anti-inflammatory treatment. After washing, you can leave the wound open to air, or apply Yarrow powder, or apply a fresh Yarrow poultice if needed. Yarrow wash can be used multiple times daily if needed. For infected wounds, washing 3 to 4 times daily with fresh Yarrow tea helps control infection without the need for antibiotics in many cases. You can also prepare a larger quantity of Yarrow tea, allow it to cool completely, and store it in the refrigerator for up to 3 days. Bring to room temperature before use. Method 4. Yarrow oil for deep or slow healing wounds. For wounds that are deep, slow to heal, or in areas prone to cracking and reopening, Yarrow-infused oil can be very beneficial. Preparation. This must be prepared in advance, not suitable for immediate wound treatment. Take dried Yarrow leaves and flowers and pack them loosely into a clean glass jar. Cover completely with a carrier oil. Olive oil, coconut oil, or sweet almond oil all work well. Make sure all plant material is submerged. Place the jar in a sunny window and let it infuse for 2 to 4 weeks, shaking gently every few days. After infusion, strain out all plant material through cheesecloth, squeezing to extract all the oil. Store the Yarrow oil in a dark glass bottle, away from light and heat. It will keep for 6 to 12 months. Application. Once a wound has stopped bleeding and initial healing has begun but is progressing slowly, or if a wound is in an area that keeps cracking open with movement, apply a small amount of Yarrow oil. The oil carries the Yarrow's healing compounds, provides moisture that supports tissue healing, and creates a protective barrier. Apply once or twice daily until the wound has completely healed. Yarrow oil is particularly good for treating old scars or areas of damaged skin that haven't fully recovered. Method 5. Yarrow spray for large areas or multiple birds. If you have multiple birds with minor wounds or abrasions, or if you need to treat a large area of damaged skin, a Yarrow spray is practical. Preparation. Make strong Yarrow tea as described in Method 3. Let it cool completely. Pour into a clean spray bottle. Application. Spray the affected area thoroughly. The spray delivers the antimicrobial and healing properties of Yarrow without requiring you to handle the wound directly, which is less stressful for the bird and reduces risk of further damage or contamination. Yarrow spray can be used on minor skin irritations, areas of feather damage, or as preventive treatment after exposure to potential infection sources. Specific wound types and Yarrow treatment. Let's go through common types of pigeon injuries and how to specifically use Yarrow for each. Minor cuts and scratches. These are very common from fighting, sharp edges, or rough handling. Clean the wound with Yarrow wash or plain water. If bleeding, apply fresh crushed Yarrow for 1 to 2 minutes. Once bleeding stops, dust with Yarrow powder or leave open. Usually heals completely within 3 to 5 days with no further treatment needed. Deep lacerations, more serious cuts that go deep into tissue. Stop bleeding with fresh Yarrow poultice, held with pressure for at least 2 to 3 minutes. Once bleeding is controlled, assess whether the wound needs to be closed. Deep wounds may need veterinary suturing. If the wound is not too deep and edges can come together naturally, clean thoroughly with Yarrow wash, apply Yarrow powder, and monitor closely. Wash with Yarrow tea twice daily and reapply powder. Watch carefully for signs of infection. Deep wounds take 1 to 3 weeks to heal depending on severity and location. Puncture wounds, from beaks or claws, these are dangerous because they're deep but have small openings, creating risk of sealed infection. Do not seal puncture wounds with ointments. Instead, flush very thoroughly with Yarrow tea to clean deep into the wound. Insert a few drops of Yarrow tea into the puncture using a syringe without needle or dropper. Do this twice daily for several days. The wound should heal from the inside out. Monitor very closely for swelling, heat, or signs of abscess formation. If infection develops, continue Yarrow wash, but also consider veterinary antibiotics as puncture wounds can lead to serious deep infections. Skin tears. Common on legs and feet from catching on wire or bands. Stop any bleeding with Yarrow. If the torn skin can be repositioned, gently do so and hold in place with Yarrow poultice for several minutes. The astringent property of Yarrow will help the skin adhere. Once positioned, apply Yarrow powder and leave undisturbed. The skin will usually reattach if kept clean and still. If the skin is too damaged to save, treat as an open wound with Yarrow wash and powder until healed. Bumblefoot pododermatitis. This is infection and inflammation of the foot pad, often from prolonged pressure on rough perches. While bumblefoot is complex and often requires veterinary treatment, Yarrow can be supportive. Soak the affected foot in warm Yarrow tea for 5 to 10 minutes twice daily. This reduces inflammation and fights bacteria. After soaking, apply Yarrow oil to soften the skin and support healing. Continue until infection resolves. Bumblefoot is stubborn, be persistent. Feather damage with skin injury. Fighting or predator attacks can break feathers and damage the underlying skin. Remove any completely broken feather shafts that are still attached, as they can become entry points for infection. Clean the skin with Yarrow wash. Apply powder to any bleeding follicles. Usually heals quickly once damaged feathers are removed. Surgical or banding injuries. If you've had to band a bird or perform any minor surgical procedure like removing a growth, Yarrow supports healing. After the procedure, clean the area with Yarrow wash, apply Yarrow powder, and monitor the antimicrobial and healing properties of Yarrow, reduce infection risk and speed recovery. Abrasions from trauma. Birds that have crashed, been grabbed by predators, or otherwise suffered traumatic injury often have large abraded areas of skin. Clean very gently with Yarrow wash to remove dirt and debris without further damaging tissue. Apply Yarrow spray or dab gently with gauze soaked in Yarrow tea. Keep the area moist with Yarrow wash or oil while it heals. Abrasions often look worse than they are and heal surprisingly well with gentle, consistent Yarrow treatment. What results should you expect? Yarrow is not a miracle cure, but it is remarkably effective when used properly. Here's what realistic results look like. Bleeding control. Fresh Yarrow should stop or dramatically slow bleeding within 30 seconds to 2 minutes. For minor cuts, bleeding often stops almost instantly. For more significant wounds, bleeding reduces to the point where clotting can occur naturally. In my experience, Yarrow is as effective or more effective than commercial Styptic powders, with less tissue irritation. Infection prevention. Wounds treated with Yarrow from the time of injury rarely develop infection if care continues for several days. The antimicrobial properties are strong enough to prevent most bacterial colonization. Even wounds that are already showing signs of infection often improve dramatically with Yarrow wash treatment, sometimes avoiding the need for antibiotics. Healing speed. Yarrow-treated wounds typically heal faster than untreated wounds or wounds treated with basic antiseptic and ointment. This is because Yarrow simultaneously prevents infection, reduces inflammation, and actively supports tissue regeneration. Minor wounds often heal completely in 3 to 5 days. Moderate wounds in 7 to 14 days. Severe wounds still take appropriate time to heal, but progress is usually smooth and complications are rare. Pain and distress. Birds treated with Yarrow often show less distress than those treated with chemical products. They're less likely to pick at the wound, they seem more comfortable, and they return to normal behavior more quickly. This is partly from pain relief and partly from reduced irritation compared to chemical treatments. Scarring. Wounds treated with Yarrow tend to heal with minimal scarring. The anti-inflammatory effects and support for proper tissue regeneration mean that healed wounds often look remarkably good, with healthy skin and even feather regrowth in areas where follicles weren't permanently damaged. When Yarrow alone is not enough, it's important to recognize situations where Yarrow, as effective as it is, needs to be supplemented with or replaced by conventional veterinary care. Severe bleeding. If a bird has arterial bleeding, spurting blood, or bleeding that doesn't stop with several minutes of Yarrow and pressure, the bird needs emergency veterinary care. A severed blood vessel may need to be cauterized or ligated. Deep wounds requiring closure. Large gaping wounds may need sutures to heal properly. Yarrow can be used in conjunction with sutures for infection prevention and healing support, but the physical closure needs to be done by a veterinarian. Signs of serious infection. If a wound develops red streaking, significant swelling, heat, purulent discharge, or if the bird becomes systemically ill with fever and lethargy, the infection has advanced beyond what Yarrow can handle. Systemic antibiotics are needed. You can continue using Yarrow wash as supportive care, but don't rely on it alone for serious infection. Embedded foreign material. If a wound contains dirt, gravel, wood splinters, or other foreign material embedded deep in tissue, thorough surgical cleaning may be needed. Yarrow wash can help clean superficial contamination, but deeply embedded material requires veterinary intervention. Fractures or internal injuries. If a bird has been severely traumatized and you suspect broken bones or internal injuries, Yarrow can address external wounds but won't fix structural damage. X-rays and professional care are needed. Lack of healing progress. If you've been treating a wound with Yarrow for a week and seeing no improvement, or if the wound is getting worse, something else is going on. There may be underlying disease, nutritional deficiency, or other factors preventing healing. Seek veterinary assessment. The key is to use Yarrow as a primary treatment for typical minor to moderate injuries, but remain vigilant and willing to escalate to professional care when needed. Safety considerations. Yarrow is remarkably safe. It's been used for thousands of years with very few reports of adverse effects. However, there are a few things to be aware of. Allergic reactions. Yarrow is in the Asteraceae family, the same family as ragweed. People or birds with allergies to this plant family might have sensitivity to Yarrow. This is rare, but if a bird shows signs of allergic reaction, increased swelling, redness, or distress after Yarrow application, discontinue use and rinse the area thoroughly with plain water. Proper identification. Make absolutely sure you're using Achillea millefolium and not some other plant. Misidentification can be dangerous. If you're not confident in your identification, buy Yarrow from a reputable supplier rather than wild harvesting. Clean application. Always use clean hands and clean application materials. Yarrow prevents infection, but if you introduce massive bacterial contamination through dirty handling, even Yarrow may not be able to overcome it. Don't seal wounds inappropriately. Yarrow powder and poultices create a protective layer, but they still allow air circulation and drainage. Don't try to seal wounds tightly with Yarrow paste or bandages, unless specifically appropriate. Most wounds heal best with air exposure and the ability to drain. Internal use. This video focuses on topical wound treatment. Yarrow can be used internally for various purposes, but that's beyond our scope here. For wound care, we're using Yarrow externally only. Combination with other herbs. Yarrow works well alone, but it can be combined with other herbs for enhanced effect in specific situations. Yarrow and calendula. Calendula marigold is another excellent wound healing herb with antimicrobial and anti-inflammatory properties. Combining Yarrow and calendula in a wash or oil creates a powerful wound treatment. Use equal parts of each herb when making tea or infused oil. This combination is particularly good for slower healing wounds or wounds prone to infection. Yarrow and comfrey. Comfrey promotes rapid cell growth and is sometimes called knit bone for its traditional use in healing fractures and wounds. However, comfrey should not be used on deep wounds as it can cause wounds to close over while still infected inside. But for clean surface wounds, a combination of Yarrow for infection prevention and comfrey for accelerated healing works very well. Use 2 parts Yarrow to 1 part comfrey in a wash or oil. Yarrow and plantain. Plantain plantago species is a common weed with excellent wound healing properties. It's particularly good for drawing out infection and soothing damaged tissue. Combining Yarrow and plantain in a poultice or wash provides comprehensive wound care. Use equal parts. Yarrow and lavender. Lavender has antimicrobial and calming properties. A few drops of lavender essential oil added to Yarrow tea creates a wash that both treats the wound and calms the bird. Use no more than 3 to 5 drops of lavender oil per cup of Yarrow tea, creating a complete natural wound care kit. For pigeon keepers serious about natural wound care, I recommend assembling a kit with everything you need to handle most injuries. Fresh Yarrow. If possible, have Yarrow growing in your garden or know where to quickly find it wild. Fresh is best for bleeding wounds. Dried Yarrow. Store dried Yarrow in airtight containers for making washes and powder. Yarrow powder. Pre-grind a small amount of dried Yarrow to have ready for immediate application. Store in a small jar. Yarrow oil. Prepare a batch during summer when yarrow is abundant. Store in dark glass bottles. Yarrow tincture. This is optional, but some keepers like to have it. Make it by soaking fresh yarrow in vodka or other high-proof alcohol for 4 weeks, then straining. Tincture can be diluted in water to make instant wound wash. A few drops of tincture in water creates an antimicrobial solution. Spray bottle. Keep a dedicated spray bottle for yarrow wash. Mark it clearly so it's not confused with other bottles. Clean cloths and gauze. For washing wounds and applying treatments. Small bowls. For preparing washes and soaking injured feet. Dropper or small syringe. For flushing puncture wounds or applying drops of wash to precise locations. Saline. Commercial saline or homemade. 1 teaspoon sea salt per cup of boiled water cooled. For initial wound rinsing before yarrow application. With this kit assembled and stored in an accessible location in your loft or home, you're prepared to handle the vast majority of pigeon injuries quickly and effectively. Case examples. Let me share some real situations where yarrow proved its value. Case 1. Severe beak wound from fighting. 2 cockbirds got into a serious fight. One sustained a deep cut on the ciria above the beak that was bleeding heavily. I immediately grabbed fresh yarrow leaves from my garden, crushed them thoroughly, and pressed them onto the wound. Within 45 seconds, bleeding stopped. I held the yarrow in place for another minute, then gently removed it. The wound was clean and had stopped bleeding. I applied yarrow powder and monitored. The bird showed no distress. Within a week, the wound was completely healed with no infection and minimal scarring. Case 2. Foot injury from wire. A hen caught her foot in a gap in wire mesh and tore the skin badly when pulling free. The skin on her toe was hanging partially off, bleeding and dirty from the loft floor. I soaked her foot in warm yarrow tea for 5 minutes to clean it thoroughly. Then I gently repositioned the torn skin as best I could and applied fresh crushed yarrow, holding it gently in place for 2 minutes. The bleeding stopped. I then applied yarrow powder and placed the bird in a clean cage to rest. I soaked her foot in fresh yarrow tea twice daily for a week. The skin reattached, the wound healed completely, and she had full use of the toe with no lasting damage. Case 3. Infected wound. I acquired a bird from another loft that had an old wound on the wing that had become infected. The wound was swollen with yellow discharge, and the bird was clearly uncomfortable. I washed the wound thoroughly with strong yarrow tea 3 times the first day, gently removing all the infected material and allowing the wound to drain. I continued washing 3 times daily with fresh yarrow tea. By day 3, the swelling was dramatically reduced and discharge had stopped. By day 7, the wound was clean and healing normally. I continued once daily washing for another week. The wound healed completely without any antibiotics. Case 4. Post-surgery care. A bird needed a small growth removed from her leg. After the veterinarian performed the procedure and sutured the site, I was given antibiotic ointment and told to apply it twice daily. Instead, I used yarrow. I washed the surgical site once daily with cooled yarrow tea, being very gentle around the sutures. The healing was textbook perfect. No infection, no swelling. Sutures came out on schedule, and healing was complete with minimal scarring. These aren't isolated flukes. These are typical results when yarrow is used properly for wound care. Historical and traditional perspective. Understanding yarrow's long history gives confidence in its use. Yarrow has been documented in medical texts for over 3,000 years. It was used in ancient Greece, where it's said that Achilles learned its use from the centaur Chiron. It's mentioned in Chinese medical texts dating back thousands of years. Native American tribes across North America used local yarrow species for wound care, earning it names like soldier's woundwort and nosebleed plant. During the American Civil War, yarrow was used extensively to treat battle wounds when other supplies were unavailable. In veterinary use specifically, farmers and livestock keepers have used yarrow for centuries to treat injuries in horses, cattle, sheep, chickens, and other animals. Its safety and effectiveness across species is well established through this extensive traditional use. Modern research. While yarrow's traditional use provides strong empirical evidence, modern research supports it scientifically. Studies have confirmed yarrow's antimicrobial activity against a broad spectrum of bacteria. Research has demonstrated anti-inflammatory effects in laboratory models. Wound healing studies in animals have shown accelerated healing rates with yarrow treatment. Chemical analysis has identified the specific compounds responsible for these effects. While research specifically on yarrow use in pigeon wound care is limited, the biological mechanisms are universal, and the extensive research in other species is directly applicable. Sustainability and ethics. One beautiful aspect of yarrow as medicine is its sustainability. Yarrow is abundant, grows easily, requires no cultivation chemicals, and harvesting it doesn't harm the ecosystem. In fact, yarrow often grows as a weed in areas where it's actively removed, so harvesting actually helps those trying to manage the plant. Compare this to petroleum-based ointments or synthetic antibiotics that require industrial manufacturing, fossil fuel inputs, and create pollution. Yarrow is a genuinely green, sustainable medicine. By learning to use yarrow, you're also preserving traditional knowledge that's at risk of being lost. You're connecting with thousands of years of human and veterinary medical practice, and you're demonstrating that effective medicine doesn't have to be complex or industrial. Sometimes the best treatments are growing right outside our doors. Teaching others. Once you've experienced the effectiveness of Yarrow for yourself, consider teaching others. Share Yarrow with fellow pigeon keepers. Show them how to identify it, harvest it, and use it. The knowledge you pass on could save birds' lives and reduce unnecessary use of chemical treatments. Consider planting Yarrow in community spaces, gardens, or along loft buildings where it's accessible to anyone who needs it. Make it known that the Yarrow is there for medicine and that people are welcome to harvest it for treating their birds. Write about your experiences, share photos and results, and contribute to the growing body of practical knowledge about natural pigeon care. Final thoughts. Wound care is one of those areas where having effective natural options makes a tremendous practical difference. Injuries happen unexpectedly. You can't always run to a vet clinic or pet store for supplies, but if you have Yarrow growing in your garden, dried Yarrow in your cupboard, or even just know where to find it nearby, you have immediate access to one of nature's most effective wound treatments. Yarrow stops bleeding faster than most commercial products. It prevents infection as effectively as antibiotic ointments, without the downsides. It reduces pain and inflammation. It actively promotes healing. It's safe, gentle, and has been proven effective across thousands of years in countless millions of wounds in humans and animals. For pigeon keepers, whether you're dealing with fighting injuries, predator attacks, training accidents, or any of the countless ways pigeons can hurt themselves, Yarrow is an invaluable ally. It's free or nearly free. It's abundant and easy to find or grow. It's simple to prepare and use. And most importantly, it works. I encourage every pigeon keeper to learn about Yarrow. Learn to identify it confidently. Harvest and dry some for your medicine cabinet. Plant it in your garden. Try it the next time you have a bird with a minor injury. Observe the results. I'm confident you'll be impressed and that Yarrow will become a permanent part of your pigeon care toolkit. If you found this information valuable, please give this video a thumbs up. Wound care is something every pigeon keeper needs to know about, and natural, effective options deserve to be shared widely. If you've used Yarrow or other herbs